call me 2022 the way I slurp like Sonic. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Gamescapes. Today and only today we are here, that's right, to do the 2022 Sonic year in review, arguably the biggest year in Sonic's history. And I want to sort of just talk about each factor that made this year so important, why I genuinely believe this is one of the most important years in Sonic's history ever. So before we get into 2022, I want to talk about why this year started off so important, right? We were in a really weird spot with this franchise, right? You know, I don't want to beat you over there with it. You all know how it goes. The 2010 started off weirdly strong enough, right? We had Sonic Colors in 2010, which people really loved back then. You know, we had Sonic Generations in 2011, and it felt like at that point we're like, oh shit, okay, we are on a high with this series. You know, we're getting cool stuff. This boost formula's working out, and nothing can go wrong, right? And of course, something went wrong. It's funny, weirdly enough, I blame the Wii U, right? Because I remember Sega signed the deal with Nintendo to make 3 games exclusive for the Wii U, and that ended up being Sonic Lost World, Sonic Boom, and one of the Olympic games, which, you know, I guess half counts. Sonic Lost World, while not the worst game of all time, just sort of exists. And then Sonic Boom, man, where do I even begin? Sonic Boom series, I genuinely hate. And it's not because I don't like the show, it's just because that felt like they were trying to reboot the entire franchise, and it just fumbled so hard, you know. And I know it wasn't the devs' fault because they wanted to make something crazy, but either way, you know, from the 3DS games that ended up being, you know, to the Wii U game that was awful, to just, it felt like we spent years on this just for nothing. Like, that part just really, you know, soured a lot of people's tastes. We did have the shining light of the 2010s, which I genuinely believe was Sonic Mania. I think Sonic Mania to this day, one of the best Sonic games ever, one of the most beloved projects ever, and I think brought the fandom together in a way that no one really ever expected. So I'm always going to be thankful for Sonic Mania. We all know the story behind it, and it's a gem. And then we had Forces. Right now, Forces really is obviously, you know, the thing I think that started to break the camel's back, right? This game fucked everything, and when I say everything, I mean everything. This is really when things start to just become toxic, where people start to have no hope in Sonic Team. You know, they had no hope in the writing, no hope for what the future of the series would be, and we were sitting here waiting for 5 years now for what would end up being, you know, an important time for that. But we'll get to that game when we get to that game. In 2020, we ended up getting something that really changed the series forever. I genuinely believe this: Sonic movie. The Sonic movie came out, we all know the story, bullied them into remaking the design, and that ended up, I genuinely believe, changing the course of Sega forever. The movie ended up being a massive hit. A lot of that money you know, going into the series, and we saw Sega looking at the series more importantly, even to the point where they've implemented some of that stuff in the modern games. And even Sega has said that, oh shit, like, whoa, people really care about this series when, you know, we treat it right. So that movie came out, and, you know, all the goodwill around that sort of started to arise to everything else. In 2021, we had the 30th anniversary of the series, but I think Sega was really smart, and what I mean by that is they didn't try to rush anything. You know, yeah, they had the Sonic Colors port, which some people like, some people don't, I understand, but they sort of just kept into a celebration of stuff, you know, with concerts and mini stuff, nothing too crazy, but it was just something fun to look forward to, as well as the announcement of the future of Sonic, which ended up being, you know, Origins and Sonic, what's called Frontiers, and of course a teaser for Sonic Movie 2. And here comes 2022. Now, the first thing I want to talk about when I think of 2022 is something I want to get out the way, not because I don't think it's important, just because it's the one I think I have the least to say about, which is Sonic IDW, right? Sonic IDW, I gotta give mega props to. This is the comic series for Sonic that's been running for a while now, and I gotta give a shout out, you know, to Ian Flynn and the writers and the team that work on that, because there's been a lot of popularity going into that. I feel like this year we've got the big, you know, surgeons of, you know, the characters Surge and Kid, who are the counterparts of Sonic and Tails. If you read it, you'll get it. But the stories and writing in those comics are really good. I actually ended up reading them this year because, you know, I kept hearing about them and they were getting to issue number 50, and I was like, you know what, let me jump in and read this, and I ended up loving it. It's some of the best Sonic storytelling I read in a long time, and that's what really ended up getting me really excited for what Sonic Frontiers would end up becoming. So I definitely highly recommend, if you liked how Sonic Frontiers was and you were happy with the direction of the story, definitely go read IDW, just so you can get an idea of what to expect in the future and what Ian Flynn and the team can really do with these characters when it's fully time for them to shine. Oh baby, my beloved Sonic movie 2. I mean, where do I begin with Sonic movie 2? This movie felt like one of the most beautiful storms I have ever experienced for Sonic. I don't think I've felt one of my favorite highs in this world like I have for Sonic movie 2. I mean, we think about the Game Awards, you know, in 2021, showing us that trailer that revealed Knuckles and got us all so excited. But then going into this year, right, from January to April, is some of my favorite memories ever, because we kept getting news about this and trailers and new looks that made everything look so hype. The clash between Sonic and Knuckles, you know, the teasers at what would be like with Tails in there, the song by Kid Cudi which elevated the hype. You had posters coming out for this movie left and right that people were loving. You know, obviously there's the one where they recreate the Sonic movie 2 box art that people love. It just felt like every piece of this movie puzzle was fitting together. It started the whole Sonic sweep. We had people going in, and the movie ended up being a mega success, getting $400 million, making it, I think, like the biggest video game movie, you know, of all time. Maybe there's one out of it, I'm not sure, but easily up there. And it ended up being a mega success for the series, to the point where they already greenlit movie 3 even before the movie came out, and they had announced a Knuckles spin-off series coming later next year. So it cannot be understated just how much Sonic movie 2 I genuinely believe was a highlight for this year. Obviously, I was invited to the premiere, and that's a memory I will never forget. You know, the fact that I actually got to live to say I've gone to a red carpet premiere for a movie is something surreal that, you know, you can never take away from me. And I genuinely, I mean, we haven't even talked about the movie itself. I loved Sonic movie 2. The fact that, by the way, I'm gonna get into spoilers, the fact that they even hid Super Sonic is fucking crazy, because that is such an that made me fanboy and lose my mind. You know, the fact that we have Shadow in the post-credit scene leading up to the future, Robotnik, fantastic, Agent Stone, my goat, incredible, Knuckles and Tails sort of regaining their character. I mean, the movie 2 is where we start seeing the seeds of Knuckles and Tails getting their character back that we've all really wanted for a long time. So I'm just so happy with the direction that the movies are taking and how they've elevated the series and where they're going with it. And I just got to give props to, you know, Jeff Fowler and the entire team with Tyson Hess and everybody who have been working their asses off to really make this an incredible thing. Because, man, there's a world where this would have been the disaster. You know, we all know how the OG design was. It just felt like there was a world where this was gonna suck. But now I genuinely cannot wait for Sonic movie 3. Sonic movie 2, I think, a mega highlight of the year that none of us are ever gonna forget, because that to me, I still think is the most perfect marketing run. All right, next up, we got to talk about this one, which is Sonic Origins. It's funny, right? This collection was announced last year at a Sonic Center, and people were wondering where the hell this disappeared, you know, because people were like, this is just a collection of Sonic 1, 2, 3, and CD, you know, where is it? And then it finally got its big sort of reveal trailer coming out on Sonic's birthday, which I still think is one of the coolest things they did. I love when they do stuff like that. We sort of got the game, and it ended up being, I think, an above average HD port for games. You know, it's better than when a lot of companies just drop the ROMs in there. I do like that they widescreen the stuff, you know, that you can do the drop dash, you can play as Tails in, you know, all the games, you can play as Knuckles in all of them except for CD for some reason. I guess I can get why, but still, you know, you got mission mode, which I thought was really fun. I really do love the mission mode in that game. You get boss rush mode, you get a story mode, you get these cool cutscenes, which I think are like a big highlight of the game for me. Yeah, once you see them, once you're sort of done, but it felt like, you know, it helped connect all that together. Now, I gotta say, look, I know there was a lot of controversy in terms of, you know, headcanon, I believe the team that helped them work on this, and they were saying how Sega didn't give them too much time to fix the bugs and issues, because apparently there were a lot of bugs and issues. Now, I gotta say, on my playthrough, I didn't really have that. The most I had was that, you know, Tails would be like, you know, way far behind me and bumping into stuff. But besides that, I felt like for me, these were like the best ways I played these games. You know, obviously fans are always gonna have the best way to play these games. I still think Sonic 3 Air is probably the best way you're gonna experience Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but it's nice to finally have Sonic 3 and Knuckles. It's nice to finally just have these games in an HD bundle on console and just, you know, have a good time with them, man. So again, would I have loved if this was more like it felt like Amy was supposed to be playable here. Why is she in so many of the cutscenes and the marketing if she's not playable? You know, you even got Metal Sonic in there, and I understand it's to represent the game they're from, but come on, I would have loved that, just that one extra little push. And obviously we know how the Sonic 3 and Knuckles soundtrack remixes ended up being for people. A lot of people don't like it, so I don't know. either way for me, but it was sort of cool to sort of see a rekindling of the original Sonic games, because I feel like a lot of people haven't gone back to revisit them. So it was cool to have, you know, a sort of week or two where people were re-ranking the original games and talking about them, and everyone suddenly hating Sonic 1, but still understanding Sonic 2, 3, and actually people really appreciating CD now, which I've always really loved. But really cool stuff overall. I enjoyed Origins. Again, nothing too special, you know, nothing to go crazy about, but a fun little release that I enjoyed. Next up, let's talk about Sonic Prime. You know, I know I recently talked about this and it's the hot topic right now because it's sort of the finale of the year, but man, I gotta say, mega props to Sonic Prime. I was hooked right away on how this looked, the art style wise, you know, where it's the sort of, it's fully 3D animated, it looked gorgeous, and we started getting tidbits over time. And even though people didn't really get the idea of what it would be like, finally getting to see the show in action was awesome, and I was so happy with how it ended up being for the first 8 episodes at least. You know, we got to get more. Netflix likes to do their batches. It is what it is. But I think the best compliment I can give this show is that it is the most I've been engaged with the Sonic show since Sonic X. You know, Sonic has had a shit ton of shit. I mean, we've had, you know, Sonic Sadam, you know, you had Sonic the OVA, we've had Sonic Underground, X, Boom. But I think what I love so much about Sonic Prime is it has a cohesive plot that's going through, you know, A to Z. It's focused on the main characters and cast, so no human elements from X, and you know, it's so well animated, it's so fun, and even if it's geared towards a bit of a younger audience, you know, and how the characters are portrayed and everything, I still think it's definitely the most fun they've had with a fully animated series for Sonic in a long time. And I feel like by the end of it, it could end up being the best Sonic animated series, or at least, you know, right up there next to, you know, some of the older ones, you know, for people. I think Sonic X for me is still on top. That's because maybe for nostalgia, but I really want to see where Prime ends up going, because they're doing some really cool, interesting stuff, and I love how it's animated. I love how the characters are portrayed. I'm just really happy with that show overall. And obviously, we got to end this off with the biggest, most important aspect of this year, which was Sonic Frontiers. Man, so much was riding on this game, man. Like I said, we had gone 5 years without a mainline 3D Sonic game, right? And we were all sitting here. Last year, we had the teaser, right? And then at Game Awards in 2021, we had that little teaser with the environment. But then it was radio silence for the first half of the year, you know, like first part of the year, until IGN shows up, right? IGN shows up in May with the gameplay reveal, and man, what a weird time that was, right? Because I was so excited for what I saw and the promise and the idea of what was there, but the way it was presented made it look so off. You know, they were using an older build, the way they were moving around was weird and all that stuff. And I know a lot of people like to blame IGN, but remember, it was Sega that provided them that footage, which they could have not, you know, or at least delayed the IGN first to another time. But either way, that was the first reveal. But I think the most important thing that came out of that to me was I was like, I see the ambition here, and I see the goal, and I see the ideas, and this could be awesome with some more polish. Little did we know that like a week later it would be playable at Summer Games Fest, and people were going crazy. Do you remember the time where people were searching for off-camera footage of the game, and that's what ended up getting people excited? This game sort of created its own marketing hype, right, through people wanting to discover everything about it. You know, people were trying to decipher, you know, off-screen footage. They were trying to see how well it ran. They were trying to see new enemies, side loops, new collectibles, cutscenes. Like, the way people discovered info about this game was actually fucking crazy, and it almost created a mini hype cycle in itself that Sega didn't even intend. But there was a turning point. There definitely was a turning point. I think that's when the summer trailers started popping up. You know, we had the Gamescom trailer, which ended up being a big story trailer for the game, where we saw a lot of it. You know, we had the Nintendo Indie mini direct that ended up showing the game in cyberspace, some of the music and stuff that people got hyped for. Then you had 1OK Rock revealing that they made a song for the game, and that excited the shit out of people. That song, I'll never forget that day when that launched, because that really felt like everyone was like, oh my god, they are taking this shit seriously. Like, we are back to this era of Sonic, you know, the AMV style music video music for Sonic, and that shit took people off guard. And then you had the TGS trailer, which teased Super Sonic, and Super Sonic being an important part of the game again. You got this brief tease that made it look so fucking cool. And then you had that, and then you had I Am Here drop, and you get the CGI trailer, and then boom, game comes out, you know, after some really good previews for the game as well. And damn, to me, the biggest thing about Sonic Frontiers was the fact that it's not a perfect game, but it's a game that is taken seriously. And what I mean by that is even websites that reviewed it and said that it was good or great or amazing or whatever were talking about it like it was a legitimate game. You know, it didn't feel like the Sonic syndrome was attached to it, where people wanted to dislike it because it was Sonic. It felt like Sega really built a game here that felt modern and fun in so many ways. You know, we had the open zone as a concept, you know, that worked really well, you know, and adapted to modern times. You had a combat system which people have wanted forever for, you know, regular Sonic to play as. You know, it no longer felt you were just homing attacking to things. You know, you had a cool environment you were exploring and parkouring from, having a good time. You had Ian Flynn on the story, you had all these characters being rewritten well, we got redemption arcs for a lot of them, and we got a lot of seeds planted for the future. And I just think Super Sonic, man, Super Sonic being taken seriously again is one of my favorite things ever. I mean, you can't go anywhere nowadays on the internet without seeing, you know, Undefeatable or Break Through It All or Find Your Flame, or seeing clips of those fights with the Titans, because they are some of the rawest things I have ever seen in this series. And I'm just so happy with everything about this game. You know, is it perfect? No. Does the ending have issues? For sure. Does it feel like they ran out of money towards the end of the game? Absolutely. But overall, man, it wasn't one of those games where it was like, oh, this is a good first step, but things can get better. It's like, no, we are in a new era. I mean, the game has sold, what, 2.5 million copies in a month. Spirits are definitely high for them. Reviews are high. The fans are happy. The music is some of the best the series has seen. And I just feel like we are in such a hype time, and it just feels like this is it. We found a footing. You know, we are in such a good place. We have a banger show. We have a banger mainline game. We have a banger movie series. We're going to get more series, you know, the Knuckles show. And now all we really need is a banger 2D game. And even then, I would say, like, the past two 2D games between Mania and Origins have been good. You know, they haven't really fucked up completely or anything there, and we just need a new original 2D game to really complete this synergy. But man, I have never been happier to be a Sonic fan. I think that's how a lot of people feel now. It no longer feels like this weird thing where we have to defend this franchise anymore. You know, it just feels like we can enjoy it, and more people are getting it, and I'm happy about that. I'm happy people are finding love with this series. You know, I'm so happy we're finding new audiences. I'm so happy I convinced so many people to get back to the franchise. Like, everything this series has become now and is heading towards is just immaculate to me, and I'm so happy, and I can't believe it, man. So guys, thank you all for watching. Let me know what you guys think of this year for Sonic, and of course, let me know what your favorite thing is. I think I just said that, and let me know what you're looking forward to next. You know, I think we'll do another video where I'll talk about what I think is going to come in the future and all that stuff. But for now, 2022, thank you for making Sonic's year one of the absolute best. I love you so much. Peace out, everybody. I love you.